In part 11 of the 12-part 2013 Miami Hurricanes opponent series, I will talk about a team that has beaten us the last 3 years, and that's the Virginia Cavaliers. Our opponent on Senior Day, November 23rd at Sun Life Stadium in the regular season home finale. Now here's what you need to know about the Virginia Cavaliers. They are led by Mike London, who is 16-21 in his 3 seasons in Charlottesville. Now he's been building that program into a consistent winner the same way he did at Richmond. On the field, his team had a lot of success. His teams have had success. In 2011, they won 8 games and almost won the Coastal, losing to hated in-state rival Virginia Tech. However, last season they did not make a postseason game. As a result, there were changes made on the staff this offseason. All Mike London brought in was Tom O'Brien, John Tenuta, and Steve Fairchild to be on his staff. I mean, those 3 names alone. I mean, that's a home run hire right across the board. And when he came over from Richmond, he came in knowing the Cavalier program and how rich the state of Virginia is with high school talent. Now, in his final 2 seasons with the Spiders, his teams went 24-5, which includes an FCS National Championship in 2008 and a quarterfinal trip in 2009. Now, while Dave Clawson, who's now at Bowling Green, rebuilt the Spiders program, London used the talents others wouldn't take and led it to great success. Now, yes, he inherited an enviable position at Richmond, a program already rebuilt by current Bowling Green head coach Dave Clawson, as I mentioned earlier. But London led it to bigger and better things. Now, he was an assistant under Al Grove from 2001 to 2004 and again from 2006 to 2007, taking a year in the middle as the defensive line coach with the Houston Texans in 2005. While in Charlottesville, he was the D-line coach, while he added the title as recruiting coordinator from 2002 to 2004. When he came back in 2006 to Charlottesville, it was as the defensive coordinator, a position he held before being tapped as the boss in Richmond. Now, what London has done in some parts has been remarkable. They recruit very well and they develop young talent for that defense. However, they have misfired a couple times. The question with London here is, does he have what it takes to be a consistent force in the ACC? In my opinion, I think they need to beat Va Tech this year to have that question answered. Now let's break down the Virginia Cavaliers. Offensively, while the loss of Philip Sims hurts them, it doesn't hurt them as much as losing Mike Rocco, who transferred to Richmond in the offseason. Now, what they lose in Rocco was experience and one who would have likely been the clear-cut starter going into the season. Now, London's going to have to determine whether sophomore David Watford or redshirt freshman Grayson Lambert can fill those big shoes Rocco left behind. Now, the competition has been very close throughout for this job, and this won't be decided till, I suspect, before their opener against Brigham Young. However, had they lost Watford, who got a lot of playing time in 2011 as a freshman, but redshirted last year, had Sims stayed, Watford would have been gone and went elsewhere to play right away. That was pretty much a given. The fact that he stayed on gives London 2 very good and very young quarterbacks with unlimited potential and very strong skill sets. Now, what you get with Watford is a quarterback that can beat you with both his arm and his legs, while Lambert's more of the traditional pocket passer, who would only get better. Now, in 2013, don't be shocked if you see them both play a lot of minutes. And they may have to, because the running game lost Perry Jones to graduation and was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Baltimore Ravens, as well as junior Clifton Richardson, who left the program on May 16th. But the good news, they get junior Kevin Parks back. And with Fairchild's new offense, they're going to go back to their roots, and that's more of a running game that led them to the postseason 2 years ago. Now, in that new offense, Parks could make a run at a 1,000-yard season. But look for junior Khalek Shepard, redshirt freshman Kai Morgan, and true freshman Taquan Mizell to see some action as well. But the expectations they have for Mizell are very high, and the staff is going to give him every opportunity to be the main backup in that rotation. Now, where Jones' loss is really going to hurt them is in the wide receiver corps. He was also a very good receiver out of the backfield, where he served as a valuable safety and secondary valve in the passing game. They do have their entire core back in 13. However, this is a young core, with only 1 senior there, and that's senior Tim Smith, who had 405 yards on 20 receptions last year, holding one of those starting spots. On the other side, they're going to have Darius Jennings, who had 568 yards on 48 receptions in 2012 back, And the other wide receivers that are going to see action are juniors Dominique Terrell, who had 475 yards on 38 receptions, and E.J. Scott, who had 390 yards on 29 receptions. And they have a stud tight end back in Jake McGee. While he had 374 yards on 28 receptions last year, he's one of the top tight ends in the conference. Now, when you look at this on paper, the experience is there. The thing that's missing here is consistency. Though having another year of experience certainly is going to help them on their 2 deep. They don't dazzle you, but this group is solid and they will get the job done. Now, as for the offensive line, this is the only thing that prevents the Cavaliers from really winning 10 games. They tried in the spring to find the right combination that would work consistently with only one projected starter, senior Morgan Moses, keeping the same spot he had last year going into the spring. Now, what they were pretty surprised about was how redshirt freshman Jackson Mateo developed and rose to the starting spot at center. Now, Mateo, who was a former walk-on, impressed their staff with his instincts and his sneaky athleticism, and by doing so, it allows senior Luke Bowanko to move over to guard, where he does a lot better than he does a tackle. And with Mateo's strong spring, someone's going to get left out, and that's going to likely be junior Connor Davis, though it's possible he could still start at right guard, but only if senior Sean Cascarano moves over the tackle, which is possible because sophomore Jay Whitmire has struggled mightily while in the starting role. The leader of that line is Moses, and if he goes down at any point this season, that line takes a huge hit. Now, while they are strongest on the weak side, they do have some depth along the interior, and their staff is pretty high on both Mateo and Whitmire. The question is, can they quickly develop into solid starters in the league? Defensively, the buzzword here is youth. Now, when they open against Brigham Young on August 31st, don't be looking for more than 2 seniors in their starting defense and no more than 3 in key roles. The rest of the whole unit are either sophomores and juniors, and let's throw in a freshman for good measure. Now, while it might be one that would be worrisome, but at the same time they have hope for 3 reasons. 1, the talent's there. 2, as the season goes on, this talent will get only better and develop. And when you have an aggressive defensive coordinator the way Tenuta is, this talent is going to develop a mean streak. And that potential is there to have a D that opponents do not want to face later in the year. However, in the here and now, they're going to need senior defensive linemen Jake Snyder, Brent Urban, and Justin Renfro to step up and carry the load while the new starters get some experience and build them into the rotation. Now, Snyder is very steady on the interior. He had 44 tackles and 5.5 of those for loss last year. While on the outside, you have sophomore Eli Harold, who had 36 tackles and 7 of those for loss, who they think is going to be the next great one there. The question here is Harold ready to raise that game to the next level as a second-year player? Now, understand, when you have youth, you're going to have some inconsistency. Now, he could be an All-American one play and crap on the next, but when you see him on tape, the potential of this kid is off the charts. Now, on the interior, Urban and Renfro are the main players on the D line, especially on the interior. But they will be joined by sophomore David Dean, redshirt freshman Andre Miles Redmond, junior Greg Gallup, and 2 incoming freshmen. Now, you think about this. You could see on their D line as many as 7 sophomores playing big roles there. Now, as for the secondary, this is going to be a unit that will ultimately be one of the best in the ACC. They have junior Demetrius Nicholson back, who had 56 tackles a year ago, as well as other starters returning and continuing their growth in their roles on the college level. The only real competition is really for the other cornerback spot, where they have either junior Draquan Hosky or sophomore Maurice Canady winning that job. They have back at the safety spot juniors Anthony Harris, who had 87 tackles, and Brandon Phelps, who had 48. And they also have 2 very impressive true freshmen coming in Kirk Gartner and Tim Harris. But the weakest link of that defense is the linebacker spot. They have to find replacements for 2 of their leading tacklers, Steve Greer, who graduated and signed as an undrafted free agent by the Washington Redskins, and Leroy Reynolds also graduated and signed as an undrafted free agent by the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's going to be up to underclassmen like Kawante Moore, Dimitri Brim, Henry Coley, and Daquan Romero to all step up and take a much bigger role here. The most experienced of the 3 are Coley and Romero. Now, Coley had 40 tackles and 4.5 for loss last year, and Romero had 44 tackles. They'll be the likely starters there. Romero on the weak side, Coley in the middle. But they could move Coley back to the strong side if they believe Moore is ready to assume a much bigger role at middle linebacker. Now, what can I say about special teams? That unit is just horrible, okay? They are one of the worst in the ACC. Their kicking game is just terrible, though kicker Ian Fry returns as a sophomore will be a lot better as the full-time kicker. Now, while the return game does have its moments, for the most part, it's just not there. Their coverage is just pathetic. Hopefully 2013 has better results for them because it can't get any worse. In closing, yes, I understand the fact they've beaten us 3 years in a row. However, this year it will not be 4. There's too much inconsistency, too many question marks. When I look at that schedule, with Oregon coming to Charlottesville on September 7th, it could get very ugly very quickly and could be a start of a long season in Charlottesville for the Cavaliers. This is going to be a year of growing pains, with 2014 being the year we can really judge this team. But in 2013, I'm going to say for the Cavs a 6-6 season. In the 12th and final part of the series, I will preview one of the 2 newest members of the ACC this year, and that's the Pitt Panthers.